All right, all right. Sound like Matthew McConaughey there. Welcome back to the SFL Show, where we like to talk sports, family life. Of course, we got quite a bit going on this great middle of September evening. We have the NFL season, which is in week three right now. So, no, we'll talk a little bit about that and some of the big storylines going on there. Probably the biggest storyline has to do with my team, and Tua. We'll probably say that to the end of our football conversation. We got college football going on as well. There's some storylines there that I like to touch on. Still got a huge election coming up. Been talking with my family, friends, things like that about some of the debates and some of the things that I think are important for us to pay attention to when it comes to the election. So we'll talk a little bit of that about that. We try not to get too super serious about it. Just give some opinions. Diddy got arrested today. Sean Combs. I had a conversation with some family about that, and we'll love to talk a little bit more about it. And then we'll end with something light. We'll end with something light where we'll talk about some movies that you were kind of late to the show to watch. Maybe because you didn't think it was going to be a very good movie, or you didn't think that the show would be very well, and then someone told you, "Hey, you might want to take some time and watch it." And then after seeing it, you was like, "Huh, a lot better than I thought." So we'll talk about that and get some of the things that you all have experienced. I know there's one for me that's going to surprise you all. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll end it with that. So let's go ahead. Let's jump right into probably our most popular sport in the NFL. NFL is a lot of fun. NFL is a lot of fun because a lot of us grew up with the favorite team that we love to watch, and with the fantasy football going on as well. It really makes it a lot more interesting. You tend to pay a little bit more attention to teams that you probably would not pay attention to because you have players on them. But there are a few storylines that are going on in the NFL that I think are interesting. You have teams that we may deem to be underachieving. And I'll see if I can break them down AFC, NFC. I think on the AFC side, the Cincinnati Bengals come to mind, Baltimore Ravens come to mind. Um, I thought Jacksonville would be a little bit better than they are. They come to mind, especially with the way they pay Trevor Lawrence. Dolphins, I think that most people expected them to win that Buffalo game. We'll talk a little bit about that, and what went down there. So they may come up as an underachieving team. Jets are interesting. I'm gonna have a conversation about the Jets because I have my brother. He's a Jets fan, and we've been kind of going back and forth. So we'll talk a little bit about the Jets because I think they fall into that mid tier underachieving because people feel like it's Super Bowl or bust for them, and so we'll talk about that. Now on the NFC side, you see. Of course, the Cowboys. You never know what to expect with the Cowboys, because they kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You never know what you're gonna get. You have the Eagles, who after two games, they still look like they're struggling to close games out. I still don't know how they lost this Monday night game against the Falcons. You have the 49ers, who had a surprising loss as well. Don't know how they got pretty whipped up and down the field against Minnesota. So we could talk a little bit about them. And then you have teams that are kind of over achieving. You look over in the AFC, not that we didn't think the Texans would be good, but the Texans look pretty good. Chargers are undefeated. You look at Buffalo, a lot of people thought they would take a step back, and they're looking pretty decent right now. And just a couple of teams on the NFC. You look at the Saints, they may be the best team in the league right now. I think Arizona's playing good football right now. Seattle's undefeated. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those teams. We won't get to all of. We'll talk about some of them because I think that some of the storylines are interesting, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in college. So for the NFL, I think the teams that are most surprising for me, when it talks about underachieving, it's probably the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, they're in the same division, which is so surprising. Another team that's overimproved, Pittsburgh. They don't even really have a quarterback yet. They are 2-0, and I can't explain to you how. No, the Giants had a game like that as well, so it's which was kind of funny. So we no laugh at that as well. But you look at the Ravens and you look at the Bengals, same division, starting out 0-2, and I don't understand how. For Cincinnati, they have Joe Burrow, who we deem to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. We look at Joe Burrow and we put him in that stratosphere with Patrick Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with Lamar Jackson. We put him up there with those guys. And to be honest, he has not looked right to me in the last, 9 to 10 games? Because last year, before he got hurt, I don't even think they were a 500 team. So he has not looked right. He hasn't looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion. He doesn't seem to play well when he doesn't have all of his weapons. You talk about T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd. When he had them, they almost looked unstoppable. But now, quarterback gets paid. Of course, once the quarterback gets paid, they are expected to carry the team to a degree. And he hasn't done that, in my opinion, at least not to this point. He has not done that. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Cincinnati now. Of course, they have a history of having a slow start. I heard someone say that they've started 0-2 the last 2 or 3 seasons, whatever the case may be. And they've been able to make playoff pushes after that. But it's going to be interesting because I think T. Higgins is dealing with an injury. Jamar Chase is not happy, with his contract. Joe Mixon is gone. Tyler Boyd is gone. I mean, this is the time where it's Joe Burrow. And we look at him as one of those guys. And to me, he has not played like it. Um, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, you see that he is that guy. When you look at even Josh Allen, you see that he is that guy. You look at Joe Burrow and it's kind of like nice throw, but y'all still losing to the Patriots. So going to be interesting to see what happens with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Baltimore Ravens is on a whole nother level though. I don't really have an answer for what happens with them. Because I don't blame it on Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson has been okay. He's been Lamar Jackson. He's been the most dynamic player on the field when he's on it. But I don't understand how they lose a game like they've lost this weekend to the Raiders, where they're winning by 10 points with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I don't know, with the way they run the ball. I don't understand that. So to me, that seems like that's more so on the coaching side. And I know we give the quarterback all the blame, all the credit for wins, losses, this, that, whatever, but there has to be something that's going on the coaching side, with their scheming in those last couple of minutes, both offensive and defensively. Of course, no, they in the second year offense, with the one from Georgia, they just lost their defensive coordinator, Matt McDonald, to Seattle, who's undefeated right now. But no, that is interesting as well. And now they got to go to Dallas. They're going to the Cowboys to play them, who just lost, you know, just got whooped up by the Saints. So of course they're probably gonna make some corrections. So yeah, Baltimore is an interesting case as well. Of course, my oldest brother, he's a Baltimore Ravens fan. And we had this conversation all the time, and there's always Lamar Jackson who gets the blame, because it's like we want you to be that top tier quarterback, so we need you to make plays when you're called on to make plays. And I will say he has not done that. He has not done the one or two throws that he misses is at that critical moment where he needs to make them. So I will give them that. But to me, Lamar Jackson is not the issue there. There seems to be something else going on. So no, once again, it's going to be interesting to see how they turn the ship around, how they fix it, what's going to happen. I don't think they can go on 3 in that division. That division is tough. Of course, Cleveland is the 4th team in that division. Cleveland has some quarterback issues as well, but they have probably the most talented roster in the division, probably in the AFC. So yeah, that division is going to be interesting, and Pittsburgh is doing what Pittsburgh does, which is win games they're not supposed to win. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that division. So other teams that I think are have interesting storylines. Houston Texans, of course, they're 2-0. I think D'Amico Ryan is going to have a really good year this year. I think they're going to run away with the division with the way Jacksonville looks, with the way the Colts look. I don't think either of those teams look as good as the Texans. So I think that they're going to win that division pretty easily. To be honest, I really think they're going to win that division pretty easily. Tennessee, I know I didn't bring them up, but I think Tennessee is probably going to be the worst team in that division. So I think you're going to find the Texans win that division pretty easily. They look pretty good. You get over to some of the other teams, in the AFC, that third division, where you have the Jets, the Dolphins. You know what? We'll talk about them last. Because of course we have the Tua situation. But Chiefs, no, they've been running that division for years. I don't think that's going to change. I think the Chargers may give them a run for their money. They have Jim Harbaugh. Now Jim Harbaugh is going to play smash mouth football. He's going to be, his team's going to be disciplined. Chargers look decent. They've looked pretty good, to be honest. So it's going to be interesting to see how they match up with the Chiefs. I think the Raiders will be tough and feisty. I don't know what's going on in Denver. I don't know what's going on with Denver. I was listening to some individuals talk. I try not to give too many names out because I don't want to make it seem like they say stuff and that they don't know what they're talking about. But they were saying that this was Sean Payton's closest team to what he had at the Saints, where this is his personnel. This is how he wanted this team to look. And doesn't look very well. Not through the first 4 games. Look like they still don't have a quarterback. So that's going to be interesting to see what happened with the Broncos. But they don't look good. So, but that the Chiefs, Chargers, that's going to be interesting. No, that's going to be interesting. And then of course you get over to the AFC East, where you have the Bills, you have the Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots, which is a compelling division because everyone in that division is 1-1. And of course, with Buffalo being 2-0, of course, them being at the top, they've been running that division for the last few years. And we saw that once again in the Thursday night game last week, where they just completely demolished the Dolphins. Being a Dolphin fan, that is always hard to watch. No, it was even harder to watch with Tua going out with another concussion, um, which was very disturbing. I'll be honest with you, it was very disturbing. My first initial reaction was never want to see him play football on the football field again. That was my first initial reaction. And the reason I felt that way was because the hit wasn't even that bad. It wasn't a bad hit. And I know people have been saying it wasn't a bad hit. No, it looks like he just ran into DeMar Hamlin and boom, just shut the lights out. Just like that. And it's kind of like, man, it seems to be real fragile up there. And if that fragile up there, how are you going to play the sport? So that was my initial response. Listening to individuals on both sides, I've kind of lessened that. I would understand if he came back to play. I don't agree with it, but I'm not a football player. And I was talking to my younger brother, but I'm not a football player, and there are so many things that are more valuable to me, but that wasn't my dream. No, that wasn't my dream. That wasn't my aspiration. And I can't tell someone whose dream that is or was that, hey, you should stop playing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Tua. I will say I appreciate the way they are handling it. He was put on the IR, which means he will be out for at least the next 4 games. This will give him, his family, time to talk, think about it, see exactly what they're going to do, what they want to do, how they want to handle it. I don't think it's a money situation, to be honest, but I want to see that young man be okay. And when you see him, reaching out like that, when he gets hit, you feel like he's not going to be okay. So of course, no, you be, oh, just stop it, So, but I'm willing to listen to experts say, okay, maybe that's not the whole story, I guess, so to speak. But we'll see. We see. No, he seems like a phenomenal young man. Seems to have a wonderful family. Seems to have a lot of support. Just kind of want him to be able to enjoy it. That's where we look at it. Even as a fan, I think Tua is a really good quarterback, decent quarterback. Not top 10, maybe not top 10, maybe somewhere around 11, 12, something like that. But I think he's a guy that you can win with. And I would hate to see him call it a career, as a fan. But, you know, it's hard seeing him deal with, the concussions, as a human. So we'll see what happens. No, we have 4 or 5 weeks before we probably even have to worry about it. As a fan, it's like, so we got to go with Skylar Thompson. Uh, okay. But we'll see what happens. Nevertheless, Buffalo dominated that game. Buffalo dominated that game. Wasn't even close. Hate losing to the Bills. I have Bills fans in my family, and you get calls throughout the night when the game like that is going on. Gonna always answer the phone. I don't shy away from it, anything like that. But yes, it does get annoying. But hey, they've earned it. More props to them. Josh Allen does what Josh Allen does, and they just pretty much just beat up on beat up on the Dolphins, like they've been doing over the last couple of years. Now, on the flip side of that, Jets fans need to back off, okay? Because I'm getting Jets fans, and this one know who I'm talking about, and they want to jump on the bandwagon with the Buffalo Bills fan and try to make it seem like they've been dominating the Dolphins like the Bills have, and you have not. All right. So I had to let someone know, hey, no, just keep in mind, you can talk bad about the Dolphins, you can talk bad about Tua, but Tua is 5-0 against the Jets. Okay? He's never lost to the Jets. Okay? And he seems to dominate them pretty easily. I think last year he dominated them without Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill was hurt that game. So, Jets fans, simmer down a little bit, because you struggled to get through Tennessee. Now, you talk about best defense in the league. We got Aaron Rodgers now, this, that, whatever. And you're having to score a last second touchdown to beat the Titans, who we know are not that good. So, let's just calm down a little bit, Jets fans. All right, let's just calm down. When you all get to the Dolphins and you can actually win a game, which you haven't done in the last 2 or 3 years, then you can kind of pile on. But until then, don't want to hear from y'all. All right, we don't want to hear from y'all. So Jets fans, no, try to break down Nathaniel Hackett's offense or something. I don't know. So, and then you get over to the NFC. You get over to the NFC, and that's going to be some interesting battles there, because you look at the NFC, is it the NFC West with 49ers, the the Seattle, you have the Rams and the Cardinals in that division. Cardinals have played decent this year. No, they probably should have beat Buffalo, to be honest. I didn't watch that game, but just looking through it and seeing how they played, they jumped out to a big lead. They probably should have won that game. Then you look at what Seattle was doing. Mike McDonald seems to be doing a good job with that team. Geno Smith still looks like he's good. This doesn't look like a fluke for Geno Smith. The Rams is kind of falling off, and now they're dealing with a ton of injuries, so I don't know if they will be able to recover from that. And the 49ers, like I said, against Minnesota, they didn't look as dominant as they looked before. Now, Christian McCaffrey's out. I think Debo has an injury. Ayuk did not really play any throughout in the offseason. He didn't practice much. So, it's interesting to see what's going on there. But that division is going to be interesting as we go, especially if the Cardinals, kind of sneak up on individuals and Kyler Murray plays the way he's playing. If he keeps this up with Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride and Connor, Connor's going to always run hard. That's going to be an interesting division to watch, to be honest. And then you got the NFC North with Green Bay and Detroit and Minnesota, and a lot of people just felt like Detroit would run away with that division. And here's Minnesota, who was 2-0 with Sam Darnold. They just beat the 49ers. It's not easy. The 49ers are a good team. We look at them as a good team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happened with that division as well. Jordan Love is out. I saw that he's been practicing the last couple of days. I think that since it's the beginning of the season, they probably need to let him heal, get better, so he does not have this reoccurring injury throughout the year. So if he needs to sit out 2-3 weeks, I probably would go that route. Not a coach, not a doctor, anything like that. That's how I would probably handle it. But no, that division may not be as easy to predict either. I mean, yeah, we thought Detroit, but I mean, now you look at it with the first couple of games, and it's like, I mean, who knows? No, maybe Minnesota has something. Maybe Green Bay has something as well. I mean, it was between Detroit and Green Bay, but we'll see. No, and then of course you have that good old NFC East. No, where it's the Cowboys, it's the Eagles, and no, we don't even need to talk about the Giants and the Commanders. That Giants Commanders game was so interesting. I told my brother, I said it's like a riddle, where the Giants scored 3 touchdowns, Washington scored none. Yet Washington won the game, and it's kind of like, how does that happen? I mean, but that's what you get with a Giants Commanders game. But the Eagles and the Cowboys, those are always the two teams that are interesting in that division. Because it's normally boils down or normally comes down to one of those teams, and both teams have not looked great. The first game, Cowboys came out, boom, jumped on their head. It looks like they were world beaters. Of course, we were talking about CeeDee Lamb, Mike Parsons, yada yada, maybe Super Bowl contenders, and then they come back to the game two against the Saints and they get beat pretty handily, by a Saints team. Same thing with the Eagles. They came out in the first game. Not that they were dominant, but they did enough to beat Green Bay. Some say they probably could have lost that game or should have lost that game, but then they come back and they lose this game very surprisingly against Atlanta, which I said I still don't know how that happened. I 2-minute warning. Atlanta was shooting at timeouts. Philly had the ball once again. Great running game. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, tush push, all of this, best offensive line, and I get a notification that no, Atlanta's in the red zone with 30 seconds left, and I'm like, wait, what? No, and I turn back to the game, and no, Drake London is scoring a touchdown. No, to tie it up, and they're kicking the extra point for the lead. And of course, Jalen Hurts throws that last interception to lose the game, which is interesting because that's another quarterback that we look at to be one that carries a team, and you expect Jalen Hurts to be able to get you into field goal position with 30 seconds left and a few timeouts. You expect him to be able to do that, you know. But we don't talk much about that, So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. And of course, that last division, in the NFC, where you have Atlanta, you have Tampa Bay, you have the Saints in Carolina. Oh boy, I don't know what's going on with Carolina. They just benched Bryce Young. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Carolina and how they turn this around because they look far, 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 no, away. Shrek, far, 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 far away. So, but Tampa Bay has looked decent. Baker Mayfield. I mean, I would. I'm sure Cleveland would love to have Baker Mayfield right now. I'm sure Carolina would love to have Baker Mayfield right now, to be honest. So the Buccaneers, they look pretty good. Atlanta's look decent in these games. Now, of course, it's Atlanta. It's Kirk Cousins. Doesn't that doesn't spell success. No, Atlanta Kirk Cousins. You don't look at it and be like, oh, this is success. No, but no, it showed guts for them to be able to come back on that game on Monday night. That I mean, you got to give them their props. You got to give them credit for that. So we'll see what happened with the division as well. So a lot of good things going on in the NFL. It's a fun time of year, man. When we get to talk NFL football, it's a really fun time of year. We get to talk about it with family, friends, opinions, things like that. Listen to individuals talk about it, things like that. So real fast, I want to talk about this Bryce Young situation because he's being benched in his second game of his second year. And I heard somebody say that this is probably the earliest that we've seen a number one overall pick be benched. And I didn't mention Chicago either. I'm sorry, I didn't mention Chicago. with Caleb Williams, but we'll get to them in another week as well. Don't we talk about that AFC North Division stuff. But Dominique Foxworth. I will use his name. Of course, I love those guys. Dominique Bomani. People know who talk to me, who know me, know how much I admire those guys, even though I'm older than them. How much I admire those guys. I like their smarts. And I like that they have opinions, and their opinions don't always line up with everybody else's opinions. And I like difference. I like listening to different people, different things. And I just like smart conversations, where we're not trying to prove that we're right about something. I'm just throwing something out there based on my thoughts, my facts, things like that. So, but Dominique Foxworth had made a comment, and I've heard him say it before, but it really makes sense when we talk about Bryce Young. But he was saying that most quarterbacks that are good come into good situations. No, he said something of that nature. You hardly ever see a quarterback come into a bad situation and be successful. I think that's why we put Joe Burrow in the stratosphere that we put him in, because he came into what we deemed to be a bad situation and he seemed to flourish in it. But for the most part, quarterbacks that are good in the NFL, they come into good situations. And you can go as far back as you can. You look at Philip Rivers, good situation. You look at Tom Brady; he came into a good situation, with the Patriots, because they had Drew Bledsoe and things like that. You look at Aaron Rodgers, good situation. Even here recently, Patrick Mahomes came into a really good situation. The Chiefs were running that division before Patrick Mahomes got there with Alex Smith. Brock Purdy, good situation. You look at even Sam Darnold right now in a good situation and how he is playing. You know, so quarterbacks that come in with good situations, they tend to flourish a little bit better, a little bit faster than those quarterbacks that come in bad situations. And I think Bryce Young came in with a bad situation. He's on his second or third head coach, second or third offensive coordinator. And that has to be kind of difficult to navigate, being a 21, 22, 23-year old. We saw Tua go through some of this as well, and it shattered his confidence. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Bryce Young, and how they navigate that. We've even seen quarterbacks that are really good go into bad situations and they couldn't win. You look at Matthew Stafford in Detroit, where he went into a bad situation, and although you saw his talent, he didn't win a lot. So, you know, I think that Bryce Young is in a he's in a rough predicament, right now, and it's going to be interesting to see how that gets handled, and then what happens. No, another circumstance, another situation with bad situation. Like I said, I didn't bring up Chicago. You look at Caleb Williams. No, he looks to be going through some of the same thing Justin Fields was going through when it comes to what he's dealing with Chicago. I saw a meme once the other day on Twitter, or X, or whatever they call it, where they're both leaned back. It has Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, and they both lean back with the same facial expressions, like, "Oh my gosh, no, what is going on here?" And Chicago seems to have talent. We know DJ Moore is a good receiver. We know Kellen Moore is a good receiver. They told us Roman Duze was good. They got running back. So no, yeah, no, we don't know what's going on there. Although they're 1-1, no, they have not looked good. In any of those games. I think they're 1-1 because the first week they played Tennessee, and no, Tennessee is Tennessee. So, but yeah, some interesting storylines going on in the NFL. Some very interesting storylines. So we keep up with it. We'll see what happens, and of course we'll continue to talk about it as time goes on. So, all right, now let's talk about college. No, we won't spend as much time on college, but looking at the top 10. Now, half of them, I think 5 or 6 of them are from the SEC. You have, let me see if I can name them. You got Georgia, you got Alabama, Ole Miss is in the top 10, Missouri's in the top 10. That's 4. I think Tennessee is in that top 10, and there's no Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Missouri. I think it's one more that's in the top 6 or 7. See if I can figure it out. It's not LSU's. Not all of them. No, it's not South Carolina. Well, yeah, 5 or 6 teams. No, we just say it that way. 5 or 6 teams. They are in that top 5 or 6. So, um, Ohio State, of course, is up there. Me being a Michigan guy, I hate seeing Ohio State up top. No, I really do. But it seems like they can just reload every year. I'm looking at this freshman receiver, and I'm like, where did this dude come from? Right? And I'm like, and people are saying he's the best player in college football right now. I'm actually looking up to see who that last team is that is in the top five for college football. So and it's like, oh my gosh, no, they've done it again. Texas, no, how did I forget Texas? No, way to beat Michigan. No, I forget those teams are in the SEC. But yeah, Texas, that the last team, which I think is jumped Georgia to be number one. So I forget that. But you talk about Ohio State and then five, no, or six SEC teams, which pretty much round out the top 10. Miami's up there, Oregon's up there, and I think Penn State is right there at 9 or 10. So um I'll say this. Texas looks really good. I think Texas looks really good. The Georgia Kentucky game opened my eyes some. Now I don't know how good Kentucky is. I know Kentucky just lost to South Carolina, but they tend to play Georgia tough. Of course, those SEC games you never know because they play each other tough. South Carolina may come and beat Alabama or something like that. Who knows? So Tennessee, haven't really watched them play yet. I watched Missouri play against my son's team, Murray State, the first game of the season. So that's all I've seen of them. Ole Miss, I think, is going to be Ole Miss. So I think that with college football going to this 12 no team playoff, they're going to try to put as many SEC Big Ten teams into it. And with Michigan being down this year, watching Michigan play once again, fan of the Wolverines and seeing all of the turnover that they've had from the head coach, defensive coordinator, five offensive line, quarterback, both receivers, all the turnover. They look like a young team. They don't look like they are a top tier team right now. No, to be honest, they don't look top tier. It would not surprise me if they missed that 12 team cut. That would not be surprising to me at all. I think Sharon Moore, once he gets things going, will be okay. I will say that I don't like the defense that Michigan is running right now. Over the last couple of years, I've gotten used to those young, innovative minds with the Jesse Mentors and the Mike Jesse Minter and the Mike McDonald, and how they scheme up things, and they're coming with this new style of defense. And now that we've went back to that old school, old style with Wink Martindale, not that he's not a good defense coordinator, but he's old school. He's been around for a while. He's not as innovative. No, it's kind of like, no, these young coaches are going to be able to scheme through this defense. So we'll see what happens. No, we'll see what happens with Michigan, but I think that they're going to do everything that they can to get as many Big Ten and many SEC teams in there. Alabama has looked decent over the last two games or last three games or so. But we'll see. No, we'll see. Right now, if you were to ask me who I thought the best team in the country was, I would probably tell you Texas. No, that's probably what I would say. Texas, because they look dominant, and no, Quinn Ewers even went out, and Arch Manning came in and looked like a Manning, So it's going to be interesting to see what happened to Texas. I think Texas has some really, really dominant years ahead of them. So we'll see what happens there. So college football, of course, is always exciting. There's always those upsets that kind of catch us off guard, that blow our mind. Like, wow, I can't believe that they won. So you're always anxious and ready to see what happens there. So no, we'll keep tracking it. We'll keep looking at it, and no, we'll have some fun with college football this year. So all right. So now let's change the conversation a little bit. I see that we've been talking about 34, 35 minutes now. About sports. So one of the things that I try to talk and educate my kids on is voting. I have, of course, three teenagers. They're in college. Daughters in their sophomore year. Sons are in their freshman year. They're 19 years old. So now voting is something that they really need to think about and really need to make sure that they're exercising their right to do. Now, I'm bringing this up because we went on a guys trip. No, a couple of weeks ago, last week or the week before. I think it was the week before we went on the guys trip, and that was myself, my brothers, no, and we try to talk about a lot of different things. No, of course, even though it was a guys trip, we're all very smart individuals. I'm not just saying that because we're brothers, but I think that we're all smart individuals, and but we all have different opinions. No, we all have different opinions, and of course, this election came up. No, this election came up as to um, what either candidate would do for us as a country. And you all have heard me say this before. When it comes to the individual that I want to run this country, character means a lot to me. No, and that's just me. I think what you stand for and how you represent yourself is very important to me. Because in a sense, you represent me, because I am a part of this country and that matters. And that has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican, has nothing to do with that. It's just, okay, how do you represent yourself? What do you stand for? I try not to do the Democrat, Republican side thing because, no, we've talked about this before. There are things on both sides that I agree with, and there are things on both sides that I disagree with. And I think one of the things that divides us as a country if they make you choose a side. They say you got to be on this side or you got to be on this side. And it's like, okay, well, what if I feel like we should not just give individuals money, that they should have to go to work, you know, and they should have to show that they're striving to make money on their own. And I don't feel like a young boy should just be able to just call himself a girl and get girl rights. But at the same time, you know, I think women should have control of their bodies and they should be able to make those decisions. And so it's kind of like, what if there are things on both sides that I agree with and I disagree with, but you make me choose a side? You make me do that. So now I'm kind of in the country like, okay, well, I agree with this, I don't agree with this. So character, plays a big part in that, and it's about what you stand for, what you represent, things like that. Now, voting is something that I think gets swept under the rug. I was talking to one of my brothers, and they don't tend to think voting's that important. And it's funny because my younger brother was like, "We're the only race that feels that way. We're the only race that feels like voting is not important. My vote does not mean anything." And I think part of the reason for that is because they made it so hard for blacks and minorities to vote these days. I was listening to someone talk today or yesterday, and they was talking about how when the Democrats won the election in 2020, I think 28 states made it harder for blacks to vote. Made it harder, made it tougher. And I think those are the things that happens where they feel like, well, it's not even that important, so why do it? You know, and it's almost as if all the sacrifices and things like that don't matter anymore. It's like that does not matter, that people did what they did. And I'm not saying that people went and gave their lives for them, because you hear people, oh, they gave their life. No, they went and they ended up dying for something that they stand for, but I don't think they went into it for that. And I'm not trying to take away from, but I don't think someone said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go die for my people has the right to vote. I don't think it was that way. I think it was more so of, okay, I ended up dying for this cause that I stood for. But for some reason, as we grow up, that sacrifice seems to get lessened, and I don't understand why. And then you have the other side of it, where some of us feel like character doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it's just about who can make us the most money. And I understand, as a country, the economic side of it is important. I'm not saying that it's not. But there still should be a standard as to what you stand for when it comes to, being the world leader, being the leader of the world. No, there should be a standard for that, in my opinion. No, so having that conversation with them was very interesting, and listening to the points and listening to the things that they were saying. And it's like, wow, it's amazing that even within our own culture, we're so divided. And I've talked about the division, of us as a country, as a world, in the past. We're so divided, and I don't know how we would ever be able to bring that together. I was talking to one of my friends at work, and I respect his opinion, and he said something to me, and I don't even think he realized that what he said really had an effect on me, because it's something that I've always tried not to do. Because he was saying that, and I mean, he's a white middle-aged gentleman, about the same age as me, and he was talking about his Republican candidate, and he was like, to me, the Democratic candidate is so far left and the Republican candidate is so far right that it's hard to pick any of them. And he said, my family raised me to be, a Republican and vote Republican. And, he went on to that conversation, this, that, whatever. And I was just listening to him, and I was like, maybe that's the problem. And I'm not saying that he was a problem, but maybe the problem is we raise our kids from the time that they're small to be on one side. Therefore, it's hard for them to hear the other side. Because they've been raised on this side their whole entire life. One of the things that I've always tried to do with the boys, and with my daughter when she came along, is allow them to listen to both sides and make their own decision. I didn't want to raise them on one side or the other. That was something that someone told me back when I was in Tennessee. And I was like, I don't understand this voting thing. Could you help me? And it was someone that I trusted. And what they said, why don't you listen to both sides? And the person that fits your sensibilities, the person that stands for what you stand for, the person that you feel is going to make this country better for your kids, then that's who you should vote for, regardless of the side, regardless of who they are, this, that, whatever. Because the Democratic Republican thing, that's just power struggle. That's just them. That's just a side trying to get power. And I tried to hold on to that, and I tried to push that in my kid. But when I hear, my coworkers say, yeah, my parents raised me to be on this side. And then I'm sure there's other individuals that their parents raised them to be on this side. And now it's hard for them to hear anything that is outside whatever side it was that they were raised on. Therefore, no, what do you have? How does that work? So I thought that was interesting. I think this country is in a very bad place. I don't think we're in a good place. I don't know what's going to happen with this election, but I'll be honest, I don't think it matters. No, I don't think it matters. I heard Joe Rogan. It's very interesting, because I don't look at myself as an extremely strong political, no, knowledge-based individual. I don't look at myself as that. I look at myself as an individual that is willing to listen to both sides, and seeing what they say, and trying to find an individual that I think represents this country and myself in the best way, that's going to make this world safe for my kids. That's what I look for, this, that, whatever. But I'm listening to Joe Rogan, and believe it or not, he's on the radio with Russell Crowe. This was a few weeks ago. And they're talking about the candidates, and they're, of course, no, we know Joe Rogan, no, strong Republican, no, strong Trump, no, Trump candidate, no, he believes in, no, not, I'm not saying that he is no the overt Trump supporter, not saying that at all, but he has talked about his Republican ties, and he's talking about Kamala Harris, and he's saying that, well, she's talking about making all of these changes, and she's in office now. Why won't she make those changes now? No, and I'm listening to them have this conversation, and they're making it seem like, she could just go and just make these changes just like that. Number one, she's the vice president. She's not the president. She's the vice president. Number two, even I know, no, and I'm not strong politically. Those guys, no, they come across as if they're a lot smarter than I am. But even I know that you can't just go change stuff. You can't just go change laws. It doesn't work that way. There's a process that needs to be made. So when they're sitting there and they're saying, well, she's in office right now and she's talking about all this change and all the things she's gonna do and this, that, whatever. Well, she's in office right now. Why don't she just do it? And I'm sitting there like, you all know that's not how that goes. She can't just go change stuff, like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change this or I'm gonna change that. That's not how this works. But people will put their own spin on stuff. I mean, there is enough info on both sides of the spectrum where you look right, regardless of what side you're on. Regardless of what side you're on, there are information on both sides that they can say back when Clinton was a great president, and there are sides there's info out there that say Clinton was a bad president. There are sides out there that can say that Bush was a great president and Bush was a bad president. No, Obama, good president, bad president. Trump, good president. There's enough info out there where both sides can argue where they're right, you know. But it just makes me laugh when they just throw stuff out there when they know that that's not quite how it works. So, we'll see what happens with this election. I don't know what's going to happen. I will say that I hope everyone understands the importance of voting and exercise your right to vote. Let's not be that culture that feels like it's not important. That feels like our voice does not matter, because it does. Whether we recognize it, whether we realize it or not, your voice matters. So please, let's get out there. Let's vote. So, no, that is my political take. When it comes to this upcoming election. So, all right. A few more things I want to talk about. Looking at my time right now. It's moving along. But serious situation that happened here in the last couple of days, where you had Sean Combs, Diddy get arrested for charges that don't look well. Charges that don't look well. Of course, there's racketeering in there, and of course, when you break down what racketeering is, I had to look it up. I'll be honest with you. No, I've heard that term before, but I really never really knew what it meant. So I'm looking it up and seeing what's going on, and man, it doesn't look good. It does not look good for one of our hip hop moguls that have been around. For me, being 45 years old, Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs has been around pretty much all my life. I mean, he's been there pretty much all my life. And it doesn't look good for him. And we've seen this happen with a lot of our black moguls. I mean, we saw this with Bill Cosby. We saw this with O.J. Simpson. We saw this with R. Kelly. Michael Jackson had his issues. Now, it looks like Diddy is going to be the latest to fall victim to some of his demons. So, where I want to go with this is, I was having this conversation with my younger brother, and I wish he was on to kind of speak his side. I try to do it for him, and I serve him justice. But he was talking about the unfairness, of how our black moguls are handled. You look at R. Kelly; he's in jail for what he did, and it looks like Diddy's gonna fall into that same category. We saw Bill Cosby go to jail for his, I don't want to say issues, but his crimes, and his point, and what he was bringing up was, and it was an interesting conversation. What he was bringing up was, you don't see this happen to other races. No, Hugh Hefner was lauded for doing what he did. Hugh Hefner is an icon. He started a whole Playboy. No, no. Good. Playboy is a Fortune 500 business, probably, and he's lauded, for doing what he did, and he's no different from some of these other individuals. You look at, we were talking about, Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis and, Harvey Weinstein and some of these other guys. Now, we know Harvey Weinstein is dealing with his crimes now, but, you don't see them get the same, venom spit at them that, Michael Jackson and, R. Kelly and, Diddy is getting. And my viewpoint was it doesn't matter, because if you did bad things, you should pay for them. You should pay for them. And I'm speaking from someone who has skeletons as well. There are things that I've done that I'm not proud of. Now, it's not nothing like what they've done. No, but if they did those things, regardless of whether it was years ago, no, regardless of whether they're not the same person, if they did those things and those things could be proven, then they should be punished for them. And I hate to say it that way, but they should be punished for them. And I understand that, well, this person was able to do it and get away with it, and this person was able to do it and get away with it. Okay, I think they should be punished as well, but that's not how I see it. For what they're accusing, Sean Combs of, if it's true, if it's accurate, then he should be punished for it. Honestly speaking, he should be punished for it. Just like I felt like Harvey Weinstein should be punished for the things that he was doing, regardless of how long ago it was. No, the big thing that we talked about was Bill Cosby. And he was like, you think Bill Cosby was the same person when they arrested him as he was when he probably was doing those things? No, I don't. I don't think he was the same person. I think he might have grown and was not doing those things anymore. But did he do them? Because if he did them, he should be punished for it because it's wrong. And that was my viewpoint. And I don't have an answer for why other races don't get punished. I don't have that answer. You know, do I think that Deshaun Watson is the only individual that has some of the past that he has? I don't. But Deshaun Watson did do some of that stuff, it sounds like. Therefore, there should be a punishment for it. Now, of course, another thing that he brought up is that the system is out to get us as black men. And there may be some truth to that as well. That these things tend to come out when there seems to be a power struggle between them and some type of corporation. You look at Bill Cosby. No, he was known to be trying to buy NBC or something like that, and boom, this story comes out. No, we know Diddy. He was dealing with this lawsuit with this liquor company, and boom, these stories come out. Now, even with someone like Deshaun Watson, he's going through this situation with these girls. He settles, and now he's not having a good year in Cleveland, and boom, another story comes out. And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know why that is. Maybe there is some conspiracy theory to it. But at the same time, if you did what they're saying that you did, you got to take your responsibility for it as well. And that to me is the bottom line. Do I think Jerry Lee Lewis was a good guy for marrying his 13 or 14-year-old cousin? No. Do I think he should have been punished for it? Yes. No. Why wasn't he? Don't know. But I don't look at him no different than I do R. Kelly. No, I don't. No, so um I'll be praying for Diddy, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I do think that you do have to hold some responsibility for your actions. And if these are things that you did, if these are actions that you did, then you should be punished for it. No, you should be punished for it. But um, yeah, no, be praying. No, just no. Hopefully, no. I mean, I don't know. No, just no. We just see what happens. No, we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. So, not that I'm judging nor anything like that. I just feel like when you do bad things, they come with consequences. No, and that goes for everybody. At least it should go for everybody, but it does seem to sway on one side or one race or one ethnicity more than the other. So, No, we'll see. No. So, all right. Wow, 54 minutes. So, we're going ahead. Let's I'll get ready to close out here. The last thing that I want to bring up is been talking to my father, and I was able to get him to watch the movie A Quiet Place. No, A Quiet Place, of course, is a movie about no monsters, I guess you call it aliens, and having to be quiet, because they have very keen hearing. And with that hearing, whenever they hear noise, they come and they just devour you, with that noise. And my father had never watched A Quiet Place, so of course I was talking to him about it, and I was able to get him to watch it. And of course, no, I think he enjoyed the movies. He ended up watching the first two, and he enjoyed the movies. And it made me think about something. It made me think about, what is a movie or a show that you did not watch when it came out, but someone convinced you to watch it, and when you watched it, you ended up enjoying it. And I do have one, and it's going to be very interesting when you hear it, because it's probably known to be one of the best shows written. It's Breaking Bad. I did not watch Breaking Bad when it came out. I was like, what? Professor turned drug dealer? Nah, probably not for me. But my oldest brother watched Breaking Bad. No, he watched it. He would always tell me how good it is. Walter White, Walter White. No, no. He would always still talk to me about it, talk to me about it, talk to me about it. So I actually watched Breaking Bad. No, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I watched the whole series, the whole series, and it goes down as one of the top 5 shows I've ever watched. So I'm gonna ask you all to do that. If you would, though, go ahead and just put in the comments, what is a show or a movie that you did not watch when it came out, but after being convinced to watch it, you ended up liking it. So go ahead and just throw that in the chat, and we'll see if we can talk about that later on in one of our shows. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get out of here. Glad to be back. Of course, love doing these. I always talk about wanting to do them more often. But sometimes life gets in the way. But we're gonna continue to do that. So looking forward to the next show. And I will talk to you later. So no peace.